What was that incident during Thanksgiving? My grandmother ran over herself with her SUV. I was on my way to the festivities when it happened, so I don't know the yet details, but she was getting out food from the back of her SUV, put it in neutral instead of park, and it slowly ran her over. The craziest part is that my family, all inside, didn't notice until they heard a bump against the house. The SUV made 3 loops before hitting the house. She ended up being fine, but now isn't allowed to go outside alone anymore on holidays. This story is now a grandma moment in our family. OS***T. My mom dominated the conversation about how everyone should be drinking their pee for a solid 45 minutes. She read some yoga book about how it cures some infection called belly that you get in places like, you guessed it, Bali, but also that it's actually just really helpful for all sorts of S***T. Went way into detail about how you have to catch it midstream of the first pee of the morning, blah blah blah. By the end she was defending it so thoroughly she said she was going to start tomorrow morning. She never did, and now denies the conversation lasted more than 5 minutes, and that everyone was egging her on. My family is known as a particularly dramatic family, and my brother and I caused a bit of chaos on the regular. But my aunt passing out at the dinner table from methadone really made us look like angels. I thought it would be a funny prank to put a rubber chicken in the oven on Thanksgiving. My mom would laugh and laugh. Ho ho ho, there's a rubber chicken in the oven. What a gag. 13-year-old me didn't realize that normal adults usually preheat the oven before putting the turkey in. My cousin tried showing us the boot trick. It was a way to get the cork out of a bottle of wine without a corkscrew. You put the bottom of the bottle in your shoe and hit it against the wall and it's supposed to get the cork out. He gathers us all outside to show us how it works. We're all standing in my aunt's driveway to see the trick. Upon hitting the wall the entire bottle shatters and his shoe is soaked in red wine. I guess that's pretty mild. My family gets along pretty well. Every Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner my step-grandfather will always bring up his father's death. Always goes into detail about how he walked into the kitchen to see his father's body on the floor with his head blown off. Either that or politics. My grandparents had a new oven, and my grandmother had never made a turkey in it before. The turkey drippings somehow caught fire and the kitchen filled up with smoke. We called 911. But by the time the fire department arrived, my dad and grandfather had put out the fire. So, when the firemen arrived, there was no more fire. They were really nice and understanding. My grandmother was mortified. My drunk aunt tried hitting on all of the firemen, even though she had a good 25 to 30 years on them. My cousin and I just stood in the front yard drinking beers in silence, watching it all play out. Fortunately, the turkey was fine and dinner proceeded normally once everything settled down. At my friend's conservative Catholic family's house for Thanksgiving, and his older brother told everyone that my pal had gotten a tattoo. His parents were pissed and forced him to show them the tattoo. My dad broke my grandparents' toilet with the power of his bowels. He ended up having to buy them a new toilet, which he broke a year later at Christmas with the same method. If you can tell, my family fears my dad's bowels, and we have many more stories about him and toilets. I heard some screaming from outside my apartment. I opened the door and saw this lady running to the dumpster with a turkey still in the pan on fire. She threw it into the dumpster, which then caught fire. I called 911 so the fire department could put it out. This Thanksgiving would be special. We invited somewhere around 25 people. Normally it would have been 12. And everyone arrived. Naturally, my mother bought a seriously large turkey and had it slow cooking all day. It was going to be the highlight of the day and everyone was looking forward to it. Fast forward, the turkey is out of the oven and is being carved. It looks and smells delicious. The table is set. Everyone's sitting down at the table, passing around mashed potatoes and talking about whatever. My mom is bringing the turkey from the kitchen into the dining room. She drops the turkey platter. It shatters. Turkey and porcelain shards litter the floor. Thankfully, most of the turkey was salvaged due to the 5-second rule. Some of us had shards of turkey platter on our plates, but it wasn't a big deal. The turkey was as good as it promised to be, and it is sometimes mentioned as a legendary floor bird. Aunt opened the pressure cooker without releasing the pressure first. Went about as well as you can imagine. Edit. I'm not sure what she was cooking, but I like the pressure release was a little rubber nipple white thing on the top, and there were, like, clips on the outside that kept the lid on. I was around 11 when it happened, so I wasn't spending much time in the kitchen. Edit 2. Electric Boogaloo. She just got burned. No serious / long lasting injuries. I guess he might have still only been her fianc, drove her to the hospital. She was home the same day and not allowed back in the kitchen for a while. My uncle broke one of my grandmother's antique chairs during an aggressive game of spoons. It was too funny for anyone to be mad. Mom bought a new stove and had me, my brother, his very pregnant girlfriend, and a few others over for Thanksgiving. About a half hour to an hour before the turkey was supposed to be done, Mom checked on it. It was still raw. She had hit the wrong button when programming the new stove and accidentally shut it off. Luckily we learned you can in fact microwave a turkey because, judging from the look my brother's pregnant GF gave, she was ready to eat my mom. Not surprising the turkey was a bit dry, but otherwise not bad. When I was a little kid I asked to say the prayer. It was a big honor to get to say it. My family was notorious for fighting, so I said my little prayer all nice and cute, then ended with a smartest God please let my family act normal today and not fight. Before I could blink my German grandmother slapped me across the face really hard, which pissed my mother off. Lots of yelling and we left. The worst one was probably where the entire family, not 20 or so, got sick, so we all had to take turns going into the bathroom to throw up for the rest of the night. Someone will say pass the dinner rolls in front of my dad, and he will pick it up and throw it at them every single year. You have to specifically say please hand me the dinner rolls or you get a bun thrown at your head. My uncle decked my aunt. The police were called. He got arrested. So 25 years ago my son was born early November. My mom's family is all prim and proper, so my adopted brother takes my 2-week-old son to check his diaper during dinner. Comes back with diaper in hand saying it doesn't look right, proceed to smell it, said something is wrong. So he tasted it. Everyone is flipping out. He filled a clean diaper with pumpkin pie filling. It was hilarious. I was probably 6 or 7 at the time. My mom's candles caught the kitchen curtains and some decorative greenery on fire. My sister and my cousins and I were at the kids' table in the kitchen, while the adults were in the dining room, so no one of significance noticed anything at me. My mom threatened us with pain of death if we annoyed the adults during dinner, so I quietly walked to the dining room and stood silently for a minute or two until someone noticed me, and only then did I politely say, sorry, but the kitchen's on fire. My mom still gives me grief about my prioritizing politeness over sense. I was only a toddler at the time, but Thanksgiving is known as the anniversary of the day my mother, father, and uncle outed one another as heroin addicts. Life fell apart fairly rapidly the following year, and it has been fun ever since. Thanksgiving is now just a small family affair of myself, my brother, and my guardian grandparents. Edit. Thanks for the concern. My brother and I are doing well. I'm 23 now and this was about 20 years ago. So far as I know, it was exactly like a Mexican standoff LMAO for my parents and uncle. They have been in and out of jail, rehab, crack houses, and everything in between. My mom certainly struggles more than my dad does. BC she's bipolar, and has always been more than a little selfish and narcissistic. Drugs just made it a hell of a lot worse. But my grandparents are my parents now and they're wonderful, strong, and inspiring people, so I'm not particularly bothered. I was having a farting contest with my cousin in the bathroom. She let out one of those ones that ends in an upturned squeak, like her asshole was meekly asking me a question. I lost it and threw my head back in laughter, and when my head came back down, it was into the granite countertop at like 127 miles per hour. I split my forehead open and had to go to the ER for stitches, but WAIT_THERESMORE. In the ER, one of the nurses asked how I cut my forehead, and I told her I was laughing at a fart. She laugh farted in response. I was 11, so obviously it was the funniest goddamn thing that had ever happened to me. Anyway, I'm 30 now and still have that stupid scar right between my eyebrows, and sometimes I remember how I ruined Thanksgiving like 20 years ago and then a nurse farted and I laugh. My oldest sister called another sister a fat b*** **ch over some stupid fight they've been having for years, who then in turn picked up the bowl of green bean casserole and threw it at her. She missed, it wasn't that far, but I guess she was really angry and that messed up her aim. And it ended up hitting my mother's favorite painting. It wasn't salvageable. We all stopped having Thanksgiving with the entire family after that. My dad spilled his red wine into the freshly carved turkey meat one Thanksgiving. Now every time he finishes carving it, we ask him if he wants to marinate it first or have it plain. Last Thanksgiving was absolutely the worst. My extended family live in another state, so it was just me and my parents. My mom was pissed at my stepdad for various reasons, so she stayed in her room all day. My stepdad and I awkwardly ate in silence while watching The Godfather. Then after dinner he had a heart attack. He died in the hospital a few days later. My mom was crushed that he was gone, and crushed at how she treated him in their last few days together. That was last year. I'm not excited to see what this year brings. I'm leaving for basic training the day before Thanksgiving this year. So, my family celebrated on Sunday. My mom and stepdad were supposed to stop by. They live an hour south and have a cabin an hour north. On their way home, well, 6 PM rolls around and they still haven't shown. Turns out, my SD decided that he didn't want to go to my uncle's and instead wanted to meet us at my grandparents', which he never told us. So he just drove right on home, denying my mother her last chance to see me before I'm gone until February. I'm honestly still pretty angry. My family had a Thai exchange student during Thanksgiving one year. Thanksgiving is *HUGE* in our family. Minus 35 plus people at dinner. Tons of food. Appetizers out the wazoo. etc. And this was going to be her first and only Thanksgiving. So we really played up how exciting it was. We told her that there was going to be a ton of food. So don't eat a big breakfast. Save room for the amazing Thanksgiving food. She ended up not eating anything at all on Wednesday or Thursday morning and fainted in my uncle's living room on Thanksgiving Day. She hadn't even eaten any appetizers. Turned out that she didn't know what that word meant and didn't know she was allowed to eat the food that was spread out all over the coffee table and bar. We almost had to take her to the emergency room because her English wasn't quite good enough to explain why she fainted, and we thought something was seriously wrong. After all that, she ended up not even liking the food. 3 words. Deep frying turkey. It's a good thing we decided to do it in the driveway instead of in the garage. It's not like a crazy story, but my uncle was dating this lady who was super fake and acted like she was family from the beginning. She kept asking to host a holiday and my mom, wanting to be nice, said she could have Thanksgiving because that was my mom's holiday to host and she wanted the GF to feel included. We all go there and the house is filthy. I'm talking big clumps of old dust bunnies right out in the open all over the place. Living room, kitchen, hallways, just everywhere. Smells like a garbage can. I have to use the toilet and I go upstairs to where she says it is. Laundry everywhere. But I get to the bathroom and it's caked with mold and a mountain of garbage, Macube supplies and just crap piled on one of the 2 sinks in there. Toilet was white with black gunk caked into the sides. I held my pee. She also ordered in food and served it to us on styrofoam plates. Not that I needed on nice plates, but lady, you begged for a holiday and then didn't do any hosting at all. We never went to her place again. One Thanksgiving my older brother took over cooking duties. He had just graduated from culinary school and was an amazing chef. My aunt and cousins came over to find a juicy turkey and amazing sides. She likes her turkey burned apparently and made her family not eat the dinner. They all watched us eat. My mom was so pissed they never got invited back to our house for any event for years. I have 3 sisters, all much older, 9, 13, and 15 years older, so they were always far ahead of me in life. They all had families and children, etc. well before me. I cannot have children. which they did not know. We are at Thanksgiving table and things are tense. Because they are nasty ****CHES and I'm just waiting for an insult. They start in on me about having children, and I say my husband and I are in the process of adopting. My oldest sister says, that is not really having children. I punched her. Don't regret it. The glass pan that mom was using to cook the turkey exploded. Dad had to spend a while cleaning glass shards out of the oven. When he gathered them all, he put them into a plastic trash bag and it melted. He got so angry that he kicked the trash can, which destroyed it. So my uncle didn't want to cook the turkey in the oven, so he just shoved it in the microwave for 2 hours. We called him asking how it came out later, and they were shooting hoops with it outside. My brother, 10, decides to demonstrate how to properly body slam himself onto a bed to the cousins. Proceeds to hit his head on the windowsill behind the bed and crack his head open. We could see skull. Cousin passes out, and the parents only console the kid who passes out. 15 stitches later, we got to eat dinner. My alcoholic uncle got super wasted and spilled red wine all over the antique curtains. The curtains were as white as paper until that day. I was 8 and hanging out with an older family friend. She was about 13. For some reason my very drunk and high aunt thought that this family friend was turning me against my cousin, her daughter, and bursts into the house screaming at her about this. Then said aunt got into a fist fight with another aunt in the front yard. Yeah, we stopped seeing that side of the family for a while. Holidays were spent at Granddad's house. One year we were inside watching some corny ass bet Thanksgiving movie when we heard a crash and screaming. We all look/go outside to see my 2 female cousins, who were sisters, fighting on the ground while the neighborhood wannabe drug dealer was standing over them laughing. Turns out they were both hooking up with him, and they didn't know it until that day. The biggest tragedy was that the cause of the crash was the grill toppling over. We were smoking a ham on it. I was ***PISSED***. A family friend, who happened to be lesbian, thought it would be a good idea to carry at least 20 plates across the living room. As one could expect, she dropped all of the plates onto the floor. Then my grandfather, who barely knows this friend, says the most infamous words in our family's history. You know those lesbians. Slippery fingers. Family member flips out in front of their mother's side of the family because their sibling served salsa to their cousin in a bowl that is too small. What if he wants more? They promptly left in a huff and everything was grand for the rest of the day. We drank too much tequila and someone broke the tank of our toilet. I was around 5 to 6 years old. Us kids were playing hide and seek, and I hid way in the back of grandma's closet. While I was hiding back there I found this beautiful deep red robe I assumed it belonged to my grandfather who died just after I was born. I tried it on, and it was huge on me, but the silk felt really smooth and cool, so I decided to go ask my grandma if I could have it to grow into. Turns out Granddad was a grand dragon in the corral in a KKK, and it was his ceremonial robe. The family members who didn't know about this already were highly upset. The ones who knew were embarrassed as hell. There was a small riot when I walked into the kitchen wearing it. I grew up in the Boston area with my extended family. My uncle, for reasons I did not know, moved to Ireland when I was very young. One Thanksgiving, my grandparents, the uncle's parents, announced we don't want to make anyone upset, but we are going to go to Ireland to visit uncle. I, 15/M at the time, lolled because why would that make anyone upset? Played paintball with my family. My uncle has a receding hairline which left a portion of his head exposed just above his face mask. I took a shot that nailed that portion directly in its center. It was such a perfect shot that it made a circular cut in his scalp which proceeded to bleed. He was fine, but now he has this faint ring of white scar tissue in the center of his head that you can see in the sheen of the light glinting off his head. Everyone has their plates filled. Grandma says grace. Then young cousins declares I smell dirty pussy. I was somewhere around 10 to 12 to there was a brush fire in the field next to grandmother's house. Small fire some 100 yards away, but everyone panicked not knowing how quickly it would spread, and hell broke loose. So there's my dad sprinting towards the side of the house, pickaxe in hand, shouting dig a trench. Dig a trench. Then digging a small hole with the lock axe that would have stopped nothing. Then he points and turns to my uncle yelling the hose, turn it on. Then my uncle grabs a hose and starts running toward the field. But the hose is connected to nothing. Grandfather looking on calmly turns to my dad and goes, that hose ain't hooked up. I need someone to fix it for me. Chaos continuing on the side of the house. Meanwhile a 2-year-old gets left alone on the porch in the pandemonium, so we're all watching the fire and finally my cousin goes, where's my sister's name? So then a bunch of people freak out and sprint back in panic to the porch to grab the kid. All the while my dad is pickaxing the ground like a madman yelling dig a trench. Ended with everyone at those digging a trench are crying laughing their ass off as the fire dept pulls to up take care of business in all of about 20 seconds. The fire never came even remotely close to the house. Used to live in Florida. When I was younger, my grandpa had the deep fryer out on their back porch preparing to deep fry our turkey. A lizard climbed inside where you would light it and got stuck. My grandmother was screaming at my grandpa in front of all our family that he could not kill it. We ended up eating just the sides everyone made. My dad, in true dad fashion, filmed the entire event zooming in on the lizard for a majority of the tape. My mom choked my grandmother for some reason in 2002 or 2003. Cops had to be involved. My mother's side of the family joined us at Thanksgiving. Mom, as usual, made homemade rolls. So I'm eating one, and I notice one of mom's long black hairs in it. So I started pulling it slowly out, and pulling, and pulling. By the time I stopped almost all conversation had ceased, and one of my cousins piped up, notice how the roll seemed to fall apart after Jimmy Paget's guitar was done. The joke after that was that you could find a little bit of mom in everything she made for dinner. Only that day, it was literally true. Make sure to like and subscribe for more daily content. Thanks for watching. What screams I'm upper class?